Well, hello there, my darlings, and welcome back to another little episode of Sparkly Warframes. And today we are looking at, as you can see on the screen, the Nova rework that was released in Update 37 near the beginning of October 2024, in case you're watching this in the future. And we're going to look at the change to her abilities. They are quite impressive changes and they're making her more useful. But before we get into it, I just want to say, if you're here watching my Warframe videos or any of my other videos and you're enjoying it or you find them useful or any of the good stuff, please consider dropping me a like, a sub and or a comment. The comments give me life. I love a comment. I love getting those notifications, guys. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it, because without you, I'm just talking to myself. So let's get into Nova. And there have been a few patch updates, maybe 2 since the main update 37. So if anything appears different on my screen, that'll be why. So her passive used to emit blast damage upon her being knocked down, but they realised with sure-footed and prime sure-footed, you're never going to see that happen because she wouldn't get knocked down. So they've changed it to enemies being killed while being slowed down by her abilities have a 15% chance to drop health orbs, and enemies killed while being sped up by her abilities have 15% chance to drop energy orbs. And we're going to get into this retired slow VAR and speed VAR build in a moment, which is kind of sad in one way but awesome in another. So Null Star, if you didn't know, it's a damage reduction ability, and it used to be you had to like reduce your ability range to keep as many Null Star particles as close as possible. But with the ability to recast it and maximize your damage reduction, you've got more diversity in modding now. They've increased the base particle count from 6 to 12. 18 particles are still needed to maintain the 90% damage reduction, but they've just made it easier to cap it. And she's pretty damn tanky. We'll have a look at that in a moment. And they've changed a few VFX things so the particles don't get in your way when you're aiming. And damage resistance from the Null Star now applies to both shields and health. It was only health previously. They've changed the damage type from slash to blast damage. So everything on her now is blast, I believe, and is a guaranteed blast proc. The base Null Star damage has also been increased from 150 to 300, and with the above improvements, Null Star when applied to the Via helmet is now altered, so they kind of brought it into line with the Mirage Solar Eclipse damage reduction. They've basically nerfed it. Okay. And the change to the augment is recasting will cause remaining particles to seek out enemies and then replenish the particles orbiting Nova. And heat damage and a guaranteed heat proc now apply to the Null Star particles, not just the ones sent out via recast. Improvements. So the Antimatter Drop orb, always a bit irksome to use, but they're just making it easier to use now and see. So tapping the ability input while the Antimatter Drop orb is active once you've first popped it massively increases its speed, and it causes it to zoom in the direction of the player reticle wherever you're aiming. As a result, you can only have one Antimatter Drop orb at a time. Antimatter Drop has historically been very difficult to control, which it was, and with its speed only increasing once the orb was fully charged. This change gives players the ability to shoot at the slow moving orb to maximize damage input, and by shooting it, that basically like charges it up, and only 5 shots will be absorbed by Antimatter Drop to reach its full charge, excluding multi-shot, by the way. And once it's fully charged, you can then catapult it towards the enemies and it blasts the crap out of them. So they've changed it from radiation to blast with 100% status chance, right? And it's basically easier to see, it's easier to move. I've been using it, and yeah, I can see the benefit of it. It's probably that or the Wormhole, which we'll look at next, which I potentially would helmet off her. But if you send the Antimatter Orb through your Wormholes, it fully charges them. Do you know what I mean? And as you can see on the screen, there are 2 augment mods available for this ability, but they haven't made any changes to it that I could see. So the third ability, Wormhole, they've removed its duration. So now it has like a number of charges that you can use. So it stays up indefinitely unless all of the charges have been used or it's been replaced by a recast one once you reached your maximum. Added icons like the little orbs above it show how many times it's been used, i.e. how many times it can be used before it expires. And holding down the ability that you press to pop the ability will then display the exit point of Wormhole, which is similar to Colovo's Wrathful Advance apparently. And again, no change to this augment mod for Wormhole. Escape Velocity, I've never used it. So if you didn't know, Molecular Prime basically was a bug turned feature. So you'd have to build for a speedy, they called it speed var, or slow var Nova build, and take the right build to the right mission with you. Essentially, if you went into negative ability strength or low ability strength and you pop Molecular Prime, it would speed the enemies up, which is great when you're trying to whiz through a mission. But if you took the wrong build, you were screwed. And they realized that having low ability strength made everything else a bit pants. So they've changed it. And now you just tap and hold. So if you press the ability once, it slows the enemy down. If you hold it, it speeds them up. And this is where her passive comes in, about dropping energy and health orbs. They've capped it at 75% respectively. So basically, it doesn't matter how you build her, it's going to apply the same amount of power to slowing them down as it does to speeding them up. And the bonus damage multiplier now applies to enemy overguard, health and shields. It previously only applied to health, and it's been added to the screen so you can actually see the Molecular Prime mechanics. The speed up effect will bypass crowd control immunity, i.e. enemies with overguard. Killing primed enemies has a 20% chance to proc blast on nearby foes, and the molecular fission augment has changed. The Null Star will apply Molecular Prime to enemies struck by its particles. And I have to say, now that I've put these augments in and fiddled around with it a little bit, I'll show you the build. I was kind of really enjoying using her, and I never have. I even kind of enjoyed using the wormholes, which again, I never did. And I'm actually going to start applying her to some other missions now where you want to sort of get to a point quicker, and the blast damage is fun. So we're going to have a look at her in the Simulacrum, and then I'm going to take her on Steel Path and show you how she fared on there in an Arbitration or two and Void Relic missions. And I gotta be honest, I really started to enjoy using her. And if you're wondering, this is my Nova build. This was inspired by one of my Discordians, Vendibs B. I've switched a couple of things out, I believe, that he'd put in. I think. Anyway, so that's why I've put it as new build. And I'm still fiddling with it, but I've got 2 augment mods in there, the Neutron Star and Molecular Fission, and obviously an Umbral mod. I mean, they're not essential. I put Rage in there because I don't know what Vendi had put in there, but I switched it out for Rage. And I may just carry on working on this build, slowly but surely. But as you can see, her duration is really high and her strength is kind of middling. And her range is low. Now, I've kept the range low because I don't want her Null Star particles to go flying off towards the enemy. I do actually want them to stay on me because those Null Star particles make you very tanky. So I started tentatively in the Ballroom Simulacrum at level 100 enemies because I wanted to practice using her abilities. Now, I popped her Null Star as soon as we got into it, and that gives her damage reduction. As long as I think your ability range is low, they won't shoot off towards the enemies. And as you can see, I was still practicing with the wormholes, and then I start practicing with that Antimatter Drop. As you can see, I popped it, shot it, and it's got like an inner circle now that kind of lights up and gets brighter as you're charging it up, and it doesn't take long. And then you can eventually aim it and shoot it off towards enemies. And I was trying to practice getting it to go through the wormholes. I was trying to practice aiming at the enemies and like popping it and blasting the enemies, and when you get it right, it really works very well. So let's skip to the highest level enemies, and I'm talking sentience as well. She just coped with all of it. Out of all the tests I've done in the Simulacrum, I really struggle with the sentient group at 200 plus enemy level, and yeah, no, she was fine. So I'm going to skip to that and show you that right now. And all of a sudden I'm like, does Nova have her own weapons? Do we need to look into that? So there you go, the sentient battle group at level 220. I don't have on invincibility or anything like that. It's kind of like real testing here. I just wanted to see how much damage she could take. And if you watch her shields and her health, yeah, they're fine. And this is against the sentient battle group, and I really struggled to survive against these in some of my previous videos where I took like all sorts of other warframes, all sorts, and they just didn't do very well. Now I know I'm not taking them down really quickly. That's going to require like a better weaponry to go with her abilities maybe, because like her blast damage seems to be the thing now. And when you see purple numbers coming up when I fling that antimatter orb at them, then you know that I've hit home with it, and it's like 100% guaranteed blast proc on them. And look, like, they're just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the augment mods working in conjunction with her abilities, working in conjunction with my weapons. I don't know. But I didn't struggle as much as I usually do taking down these enemies, and being able to slow them down and not have to take a slow VAR build made all of the difference. And all of a sudden I got kind of excited at this point here. I was like, wow, she's good. And she didn't even get close to being like going down. Like, they didn't even really touch her. When you slow enemies down, they can't do much to you, you know? And the speed VAR build on a defense, it's just, if you're just trying to get the enemies in close and kill them, it just speeds everything up, the whole mission. So when you're grinding, it makes life a bit easier and a bit less kind of like grindy. So one of the first missions I took her on was actually a Steel Path Incursion. It was an exterminate on the Kuva Fortress. Now, it took a moment because I didn't take my best weapon that I should have taken in conjunction with her, and the exterminate felt a bit clunky for her ability, so I think she's going to be better at doing defenses and places where you can stand still a bit more, for me anyway. But at no point did she get close to dying. So that's kind of what I was testing, like her survivability more than how much damage am I able to do, which is obviously important as well. But that damage reduction kind of feels like very good. I like survivability, you know, and I think because of her abilities are able to slow and speed up the enemies, and she's able to do blast damage as well. It just makes her a bit more appealing to use generally, whereas before I never really thought to use her because it just felt a bit faffy to bring the speed or slow VAR build. It was a bit like, well, you know, there's other ways to do it. So yeah, I got through this mission absolutely fine, and we're going to go and have a look at another one. So I took this build and I did a Steel Path Void Relic defense on Mars, I believe. So it's not massively high level, but you know, just a good test. And oh god, I really enjoyed it. She did really, really well. And what I realized over time was you could speed the enemies up, get them in closer to you quicker, and then when they were close enough, you could just slow them the F down again. Oh my god, I don't think I did it so much in this very first mission. I was too busy trying to remember to pop my antimatter orbs, pop them through my wormholes to fully charge them. It doesn't take much to shoot them and charge them, and then zip them off, aim towards the enemies, and poo kerpow them. As you can see, I'm trying to like basically throw my charged up orb into piles of enemies because it guarantees the blast proc on them. And just having a literal blast, learning how to use it in mission, and getting that really satisfying like pool of purple numbers popping up for the blast damage. Look at it, it's just so much fun. I really enjoyed using her. And the thing I noticed on Steel Path missions, especially these defenses I was doing here, there and everywhere, was that a lot of people were bringing Nova. There's actually another Nova in this mission, and I think I popped in and there were 3 of us plus a Siren. I was like, okay, that's too many, so I left. But like, there's obviously something going on with Nova. People realize, yeah, she's like very much usable. In my personal opinion, they've definitely improved her mechanics. She feels less irksome, I think. I don't think she's going to be ever like my main Warframe, or the Warframe that I turn to all the time for very specific things. But I think these defenses, yeah, the ability to like bring them in quickly and slow them down, I really like that. I really liked it, and I really did enjoy, weirdly, I didn't think I would, I really enjoyed the antimatter orb and like shooting it and trying to get it to go through these wormholes to charge it up. There you go, that's a good example of the blast damage that it does, those purple numbers popping up. That got a good group of enemies. So I can imagine on maybe a conjunction survival on Lua, where you just literally have piles and piles of enemies. Yeah, and her survivability is really good. I'm like, what else can I do here with this girl? So I then took her on arbitration. So I really enjoyed this, I have to say. We're defending a person, we're defending a point. And it was in this particular mission where I realized that I could speed the enemies up, bring them in real close, real quick, and then slow them back down again when they got a bit too close to our target, our point. And obviously, when you're doing an arbitration defense, it's a person and they link to a specific person in the group. I don't know how it cycles around, whether it's random or whether it's something to do with the host of the squad, I'm not sure. But as you can see, they kept like running off and trying to sort of hide them from the enemies, but the enemies will just keep swarming. And I don't know, being able to speed them up and then slow them down. Oh, it got really good, as you can see. And I've only got my Exceltra Prime again. I'm not using any sort of really fancy weapons here. And I don't know, there's like a weird extra detonation explosive effect, which I feel is a mechanic based on those augment mod changes and potentially her molecular prime being impacted with the Null Star as well that I mentioned. So there's something going on here. Somebody put in one of the group chats when we were playing together, does molecular prime make things explode now? And because it was really, everything was going kaboom. I was like, I don't actually know what's making everything go kaboom-a-doo-boom. I don't know if it's my Exceltra Prime, whether it's just Nova's abilities, I'm not sure. Either way, we were killing a lot of stuff. I'm just saying. And also, more importantly, surviving and succeeding. I mean, we had a Dante giving us Overguard in this mission, so my survivability wasn't really tested, which is always desirable, obviously. But if you're going solo or you're in a squad where they're not buffing you with any other survivability. Look at my Antimatter Orb, like, just desperately trying to aim it. That was the one thing I was struggling with, and I popped it. It goes... There's a slight delay when it starts to follow where your reticle is going. But anyway, you learn its trajectory, and you sort of change your playstyle slightly when you've popped it accordingly. But I actually enjoyed that. It felt like a bit of a challenge trying to work out. It didn't feel like an awful challenge. It wasn't like, oh god, this is so fiddly and irksome. It was like, oh, this is new. How am I going to get this to work for me? And yeah, trying to pop it through these wormholes as well. And I can see, like, for the new Kume defense, using Nova's wormholes to pop from A to B to the shrine quicker is going to be useful. Stuff like that, you know, there's a lot of applications for her, and I was having, as you can see, excuse the pun, an absolute blast with her. And also, let's talk about her skins a moment. And what a load of lovely fashion frame skins she has. This is the brand new Deluxe skin that was released in Update 37. It's the Azakure or Auzakure. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce it. Vault also had a Deluxe skin released, and there will be more coming in the future. And isn't it beautiful? It's kind of Japanese theme. But as you can see, Nova has a lot of skins to choose from, man. Like, this is like a testament to how long she's been in the game for, from pretty much the beginning, I guess, and how beloved she is, that people have taken the time to design skins and helmets for her. And I love this. I love the fact that you can look at them without buying them first. I love the fact that they let you have just a little look around and change the colors. Like, it's applied the colors I've got right now, so I could change them if I wanted to and see how they sparkle and shine. And I know they cost platinum or real money, but you know, if it's plat, you can earn plat in the game by trading prime parts, and I'm all for that. If I can buy the sparklies and the pretties and the shinies, who doesn't love a bit of fashion frame? There is a skin coming up that as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want it. There it is. It's kind of like the new skin, but not quite. It's like a hybrid of the sort of the Japanese theme plus something else. I can't quite put my finger on, but I kind of liked it. And I've got like a bright pink on there. I don't always go for such garish colours or girly colours, but oh, it's so eye-catching, isn't it? So let me know what you think of the new skin and skins in general. And the other thing I'm always interested in is how you're modding your Warframes. Now that Nova, you don't have to build her for a Slova or a Speedva build. How are you guys modding her? I know I have my mod configuration in progress in this video. It was not a complete thing. I'm always open to ideas and trialing and erroring and just finding that sweet spot to make it a really good build for various missions. What are you using her for? Are there any Nova mains here? Let us know what you think of all the changes that they made. Imagine being a Nova main and loving her the way she was and them changing her. I don't know if there's many people out there that would feel passionately about it or happy about the changes. I don't know. Let us know in the comments. In the meantime, I'm glad they've kind of made the changes, because as they kind of alluded to in the comments of why they changed her, is that Warframe is changing slowly. They're having to adapt things to the pace of the game and all the new players coming in and their updates and their Incarnate weapons and, you know, the higher level stuff that they've got going on for the players to keep us all entertained as we move through the game. And obviously we have the Warframe 1999 update to come out at the end of the year. I don't know when it's coming out exactly, but it's all very like there's always something to be looking at in this game. And I might be a legendary 3, but I still have things I haven't completed in this game, which I will be working on in the future. You know, it's not going anywhere yet, neither am I, and I hope you aren't either. So in that vein, my darlings, let me know what you think of Nova, her skins, how you're modding her, what you're using her for, and generally how you feel about the Warframe changes in the last update. And if you're just enjoying Warframe, please feel free to come and join the Discord. It's not just the Warframe Discord, it's just for gamers, really, to hang out. Sometimes we hang out, sometimes we don't. We're all very busy people with, you know, jobs, school, studying, whatever people are up to. But it's just nice sometimes to circle back around and realise you still have your little gaming Discord community to join in with just now and again, take the stress off, grind together, talk about other games, and yeah, you are more than welcome. The link is in my channel. Feel free to go and check out any of my other videos. As always, I just ask if you could just pop a like, a sub, and or a comment, and I would appreciate the heck out of it. In the meantime, my darlings, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it, and I really hope to see you again in the next one, no matter what it may be. But in the meantime, you take care now, and goodbye.